Recording in progress.
All right, good evening, everyone. I call this meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. Public meetings are now open for the public to attend in person. For information on how to attend a future meeting or how to sign up for public comments, please visit the city's website at cityofmenifee.us/agendas. For anyone who is watching this meeting tonight and would like to provide public comments, you must register to speak by emailing publiccomments@cityofmenifee.us prior to the item being heard. Be sure to identify which items you would like to speak on. You will receive instructions on how to participate during the meeting. For all meetings going forward, please visit the city's website for information on how to participate. Moving on to item number 2. Clerk, can you please call roll?
Commissioner Ledoux,
Present.
Commissioner Thomas,
Here.
Commissioner White,
Here.
Vice Chair Madrid,
Here.
and Chair Diedrich.
Here. Vice Chair, can I get you to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Please stand. Place your hand over your heart. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Item number 4, presentations, seeing none tonight. Moving on to item number 5. Are there any modifications to the agenda tonight?
No modifications.
Thank you. All in favor of approving the agenda?
Aye.
Aye. All right, item number 6, public comments. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak tonight?
I do not have any requests to speak. The commission did receive correspondence this evening.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 7, approval of the minutes. Can we get a vote to approve the minutes of May 12th, 2021?
Nothing's coming up. Do you want to do a verbal?
Sorry, give me 1 second.
Looks like we're still waiting on Vice Chair.
Nothing. Nothing here.
Oh, you're in the special city council meeting. You're in the wrong meeting.
The other tab on the top, to the left. Other tab, yeah.
Top left.
Top. Up, up,
All the way up. All the way up.
Yep.
Portal. There it is.
Go back to the meetings.
Okay. I thought I had it. That's where I went. Okay. Yeah, thank you.
That passes.
Okay.
No items on the consent calendar tonight. Moving on to item number 9.1. Madam Community Development Director, can you please introduce this item?
Thank you, Chair, members of the commission, members of the public. Tonight's public hearing item will be presented by Senior Planner Ryan Fowler.
Good evening, Commission. Ryan Fowler, Senior Planner, here to present plot plan number 2018-300 and conditional use permits 2018-301 and 302, and then the tentative parcel map 2018-320. It's all collectively titled Mott Country Plaza. Next slide. There we go. So the project is located at the northwest corner of Palomar Road and Highway 74. The project site has currently some retail commercial buildings on the site, as well as the Chinese Bistro restaurant and the Acts Church building. Just immediately adjacent to the west is the Mott, but outside of the project site is the Mott Historical Car Museum. The project has a general plan land use designation of specific plan. It's specific plan 260 Menifee North. To the north and to the east, it's the same specific plan. To the south, we have business park, BP, and commercial retail to the west. The zoning for the site is that same specific plan, but specifically planning area 8, commercial. It's the same commercial designation, but different planning area 13 to the east. To the north is planning area 7B, which is a high density residential zone. On that property, there is an approved tentative track map. To the south is business park again, and to the west is commercial retail. So the project includes a plot plan. As I mentioned, it first includes the relocation of the Chinese Bistro train car. So you can see here, the Chinese Bistro train car currently is approximately where the light blue colored building is located, and it would be moved to between the two orange buildings, which are existing on an area that has kind of a grassy flat area. Within this plot plan is also a new convenience store. It'll be 3,838 square feet. Then attached to that will be a 1,755 square foot drive-through restaurant. And then within that building also a 958 square foot office. Just on its north side there, you can see from the exhibit is a car wash that's proposed. This would be 1,030 square feet. And then on the south side of the convenience store will be a 8 dual pump gas station with canopy. That will be 4,709 square feet. Altogether, the site is 3.8 acres. And here's just a zoomed in view. On the right-hand side, you see the zoomed in conceptual plan of the convenience store, restaurant, car wash, and gas canopies. And then to the lower left is the zoomed in version of the relocated train car. And we'll get into more specifics about the layout here in just a second. So I also mentioned that there's 2 conditional use permits included with this. The first one, 2018-301, it essentially approves the uses that require CUP per our code. So those 3 uses are the gasoline service station, the convenience store, and the car wash. The second CUP, 2018-302, includes the sale or authorizes the sale of beer and wine for off-premise consumption at that convenience store. And I'll get into in a couple slides a little more details about that. And then lastly, included in this package is the Tentative Parcel Map 2018-320. It's a commercial subdivision, Schedule E per our code, and it is for conveyance purposes. And it is subdividing 3.8 gross acres into 2 parcels. So the first parcel, parcel 1, will be the existing center on the left-hand side. And then parcel 2 is the gas station site, and it'll be 1.3 acres. So if you just remember those numbers in a couple slides, parcel 1 and parcel 2. Parcel 1 is the one on the left. Parcel 2 is where our new gas station will be located. Okay, just as background, I know this is a picture image is a little tough to read. This is the best we have from the county's microfiche, but it dates back to 1980 when the plot plan for this center was approved by the county, plot plan 4929. But even at that time, already existing was the one building that has the UPS store and the U-turn for Christ's thrift store located within it, the one facing Highway 74. And in terms of site layout, so you can see with the blue arrows, these are the 3 points of access that you could access the site. Highlighted in the yellow circles is where you primarily get your access for the gas station, and also those areas that would receive enhanced paving as this project comes in. There'll also be ADA accessibility throughout the site from the existing center over to the gas station. And then adequate queuing has been plugged in here for the restaurant and for the car wash per our code. And then there's a sound wall that is proposed along the northern boundary of the site adjacent to where the car wash will be located, and to attenuate the noise coming from the car wash, since there will be those higher density residential units to the north. So, and also included with that, within the initial study, M&D, there is additional mitigation to attenuate the sound from the car wash. As far as parking is concerned, the project applicant had their traffic engineer submit a shared parking analysis. And what that looked at is not only, if someone comes and parks in one of these stalls, instead of, maybe just going to one shop, maybe they go to the restaurant and one of the shops, so they could hit multiple businesses. So instead of just looking at them all individually, it looked at that. It also looked at potentially offset peak hours when peak demand is different. So for like instance, the church might be different demand than the peak demand for the UPS store, for instance. So factoring all those items in, the peak demand on the weekend was determined to be 95 spaces, and on the weekday it'd be 85. The staff would just want to make one correction. So on the parking memo, it did mention that 116 spaces are provided. In fact, we went out and looked, and it's 134 spaces are actually provided within the center. I think it was just a discrepancy of not including the spaces at the Mott Museum, but that parking memo did look at the demand from the museum, so that should have all been included. So just want to set the record on that. As far as circulation is concerned, they will be constructing the half section of Palomar Road and Highway 74 in front of the gas station parcel number 2. There is an ultimate and an interim design for Highway 74 included in the plans. And right now, just as background, there's a highway safety improvement project going on Highway 74. It's going to install a hard median. So once that goes in, those 2 driveways on the south side of the project are only going to be right in, right out. And then as part of the tentative parcel map, they'll be offering dedication of right-of-way to the city. So that way when the ultimate improvements do come in, the city will have that available. Landscaping. The project on parcel number 2, well, most of the landscaping is on parcel number 2, but they're proposing approximately 13,000 square feet of landscaping. They're required to do 5,768 per the code. Landscaping, as I mentioned, is primarily around the gas station, but they are plugging some into parcel 1, particularly around where the relocated train car will be, around its perimeter. And then also within both sides of this driveway that's actually in parcel 1 that you see on the lower portion of that exhibit. As far as architecture is concerned, so here's an image of the convenience store on the right-hand side and the attached restaurant. On the left is the car wash. So the style of the architecture was meant to blend with the existing agrarian, rustic style of the existing center. So they used elements from that center in this design, particularly roof forms, barn elements, the window styles, canopies, awnings, and some of the stonework to kind of blend in with the existing center. And same with the color palette they chose as well. And then here's an image of the gas canopy that would have the stone base at the canopy legs as well. And then getting into the public convenience and necessity. So as I mentioned, there's a CUP for the sale of beer and wine at the convenience store. And ABC requires that we make a public convenience and necessity finding if there's an overconcentration of alcohol licenses within a particular census tract. It's basically a finding that determines that additional licenses over the allowed number will not impact the area. So in this particular case, we're in this census tract shown in the map, and looking at ABC's license query, they have 3 active permits within this census tract. So you have the and they're all shown here with the yellow stars, the California Ranch Market, the Arco AM/PM, and the Roma Land Market. And then not an active permit, the city did recently approve a public convenience and necessity findings for the On Deck project, which will be the northwestmost star there. And so there's actually 3 permits that are allowed per ABC based on the population of the census tract. And since we have 3 active permits and potentially a 4th, the city has to make public convenience and necessity findings. So some of those findings include that the CUP is consistent with the General Plan and Development Code, wouldn't interfere with the quiet enjoyment of the neighboring residentially zoned properties just based on distance, intervening landscaping, walls, drive aisles in between those uses. And then it would not result in an excess number of similar establishments. In this case, this particular CUP, it's the convenience store is going to be engaged in the sale of common convenience store goods, snacks, beverages, limited grocery items. And then as part of what is required by code, we noticed within 1,000 feet any schools, parks, and playgrounds, and just all property owners within 1,000 feet. So a initial study mitigated neg deck was prepared for this as part of their environmental in pursuant to California Environmental Quality Act. And it determined that there was no significant effect on the environment. There was less than significant effect on the environment with incorporation of mitigation. So at this time, staff is recommending the commission conduct the public hearing, adopt a resolution adopting an initial study and mitigated negative declaration, and adopt a resolution approving plot plan 2018-300 subject to the attached conditions. And I just want to draw your attention, there is some revised conditions in the memo from our engineering department that affect a few of the conditions for the plot plan as far as for the tentative parcel map. So that item number 3 here would be subject to the conditions of approval as amended. And then also recommending adoption of a resolution approving conditional use permit number 2018-301 and 302, and then the tentative parcel map 2018-320. And this concludes staff's presentation.
Great, thank you, Ryan, for that detailed overview. Fellow commissioners, any questions for staff?
I do have a question.
Please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ryan, for the presentation. I know we talked a little bit about parking in that presentation, and you came up with 95 spaces that were that would be required as of a peak time. Did you happen to look at the minimum parking requirements for each of the use types for the fast food?
Yes, we did. So if you didn't account for, the kind of internal capture when one person comes and they visit a couple of different spaces, a couple different shops, and not considering the offset peak demands, individually it come out to roughly 150 spaces if you all add them up per our code individually.
Okay. And we have 130?
34.
134. Okay, so there's a difference of 16 spaces there or so that we're under, but we're not necessarily going to be reaching those because of the peak that was determined by. Okay. All right. Another question I was thinking about was when they move the train car, that's a restaurant use, right?
Correct.
Now, when they move that, I'm assuming that all of the appropriate like grease trap and plumbing and everything's going to be tied into that and tied into the existing system that's there now.
That's correct. Yeah, they took a look at that. So it'd be tied in. It'd have restrooms in the back. It would have the grease interceptor. They'll also tie in to sewer as well. So.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
And I have a question, Ryan. In the revision documents, I see through here there are only minor. It talks about minor development. What is considered minor development versus major development, and who makes that choice? And is that an approved by the city engineer to determine what's minor and what is major? Minor could mean many things.
So just for a general point of reference, the parcel 2 where the new gas station is proposed, that's major development. That's new development. And the minor development happening on parcel 1, that's like the relocation of the train car and some landscape enhancements and the decorative pavers, but it doesn't include physical, vertical, large construction. The code, this isn't referencing the specific section of the development code, but the development code does have specific definitions for what would be covered under like a major plot plan or a minor plot plan, and it defines that. I think engineering is using those terms more in this context to describe what's proposed on each of the 2 parcels for the project in front of you tonight.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions for staff? I did have one question about the relocation of the train. The orientation of the train is being changed, is it not? Is it perpendicular currently and it's being changed to parallel?
Correct.
Right. Is it going to be hidden from the road, or is it going to be visible from the road? Is there any landscaping going in between there, or just curious about that?
You have existing some, I think, crepe myrtle trees, so smaller trees out there on that parcel 1. It would actually maybe be a little bit more visible because now it's parallel to the roadway instead of perpendicular.
Okay. It's such an intriguing setup, so it's almost beneficial that it's going to be turned sideways and people will see it more. But okay, thank you. No other questions for staff. Let's open the public hearing at 6:23 p.m. Madam Clerk, was this hearing legally noticed?
Yes, it was.
And have we received any correspondence on it?
No correspondence on this item.
Thank you. Any public comment requests?
No public comment.
All right.
We both do, but we didn't have an opportunity to sign up. I'm yelling so.
You represent the applicant, though, correct?
Yes.
So you're coming up next then. No. You're next on the agenda. You took the words out of my mouth, so you were ready for it. So, please go ahead.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. Always a pleasure to see you, and I'm glad that we're doing in-person meetings now. I don't really have much comments. I will just comment on some of the things that were mentioned. One of the reasons why this project is getting done by the Mott family is because it's going to remove existing septic systems that have been in place for a long time. They're functioning perfectly, but for the future of the center and just really for future growth, Mr. Alabasi's gas station will be bringing in sewer, will be abandoning the septic systems and hooking up, for the purposes of this project, we'll be hooking up the Country Plaza and the train to sewer. Unrelated to this, but still worthy of mention, the Mott Museum, which is also on a, it's not part of this project, but it's also on septic right now. That is also going to be hooked up to sewer. And the beautiful thing here is that there's some other properties as you move west that'll also get to avail themselves of the new sewer line as well that are currently vacant. The orientation of the train is changing, and that is a good thing because you certainly want it seen. It will continue to operate as a restaurant. When we get ready to move it, I encourage people to come on out and watch. I was not there when it was placed. It was placed there, geez, almost 35 years ago, but they relocated it from Hemet. And they have to bring in massive cranes to move it. So it's really quite the operation. But we plan on doing it right away, actually. So that's kind of exciting. Regarding landscaping, just because it came up, the purpose of course, making it perpendicular is you want to be able to see those tracks. You want to, get that train feel. So we won't be covering up the tracks with landscaping, but we will be doing something with it, and we're certainly going to turn in the application and get approval from city staff for it. One last thing, and I'll leave this to you, Yolanda, when the time comes. If we can read the change conditions into the record, I'll sort of allude to them, but Yolanda will read them. The Mott family is dedicating an awful lot of right-of-way for the ultimate improvement here to make this project work. In fact, this has been a four-year journey. It became more complicated than it was ever meant to be. And they're dedicating, like I said, the ultimate improvements. One thing that they want to be certain of in this process and in the future, that provided they bring forth no other development application, that not now or in the future they will have any road improvement obligations. And that's the condition that I'm most concerned about, and Yolanda will go ahead and read that into the record. So just to reiterate, they're dedicating the right-of-way, they're moving the train. That is the extent of the Mott Country Plaza project, and they will not be improving in front of their frontage. However, as Mr. Alabasi and staff will allude to, in front of the gas station, it is going to be improved. And I just wanted to be to make that clear for the record, and if you could read it in at the appropriate time, Yolanda, I'd appreciate it.
A quick question about that.
Sure.
So they're going to be doing the improvements to frontage along the front of the gas station. So how's it going to match if you're not doing the Mott? Or is going to be a differential in the setback? Is there going to be is the sidewalk going to stop? What are we talking about?
Better explained by staff and Mr. Alabasi, who do this for a living, and I'll defer to them. Why I'm here, is there anything more that you wanted to ask me? Thank you, Mr. Thomas, and thank you, Commission.
Thank you, Mike.
Good evening. I could take the mask, right? I think there's more than 6 feet away. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, thank you. I want to start by, first of all, thanking staff, Yolanda, Cheryl, Ryan, for a wonderful job. I don't know if they like me or Mike more, but they kept us for 4 years. We're excited to do a project in Menifee, but it's been a tough journey. It really started as, we thought it's a small project. Just a small introduction about me and my family. I got my wife, Elizabeth, right here, and my son, Ramsey. And I haven't met any of the commissioners, but I'm a local public work contractor. A couple of years ago, we did the storm drain from Briggs Road all the way to Paris, San Jacinto River. So I've done a lot of work through Menifee. If anybody drove Menifee Road, I had it closed for a while when we did the channel. So I'm familiar with this. We also do shopping centers. We own 8 gas stations and shopping centers. And by the way, I also have Corinne, who's my development director, and Lisa, she's our district manager for the gas stations. We build gas stations and shopping centers, and my wife manages them. So she's in charge once I build them, because my construction company we build. The closest one to Menifee, which is, I'm sure some of you have seen it, is the one in Trumbull and Ethanhook. We built that station a few years ago. Jonathan made me do quite a bit of improvement between him and Habib. So if you go by, you'll see the kind of quality work we do. The other one we do is, we did a few years ago on Highway 74 in Winchester, just down the street. And we capture a lot of the traffic heading to Hemet. Now we're trying to capture them in the morning going toward LA, Orange County. We got several other ones, so we thought this is a good opportunity, and I've been wanting to develop in Menifee. So this came to here. We're excited to go for the construction phase. I know Ryan and Mike touched on the improvements we do, and we're going to do the latest and the greatest. If you, like I said, if you go to our centers, you'll see the quality we do. We're going to improve it per the approved construction documents, which we intend. We have an engineer on board who's going to start. We also have our architect, Wade Chewy, who did all the nice elevations you just saw. We're going to start construction documents, and we will meet the highest and the greatest when it comes to ADA sidewalk. Through this journey, and myself being an ex-Caltrans engineer, we've had several meetings with staff. I mean, we spent over $100,000 in meeting cost. And we went to Caltrans County. We got everybody involved, and our consultant and your engineer consultants. And Highway 74 has been challenging. I dealt with it in Winchester. We're dealing with it now. What is ultimate? What's Caltrans doing? What's county doing down the road? And nobody could really figure out. So I think the final agreement was there is existing condition, which Mike alluded to, that the MOTS are in agreement to keep their side. I am doing the interim ultimate, and then there's the ultimate that nobody knows. There's even disagreement between Caltrans County and City. What is the ultimate width? We went back and forth on it many times. Really? So I think finally there was an agreement between staff, our engineer, and myself. It's let's go ahead and add a deceleration lane, add a sidewalk, add enhance the driveway. So it's going to look much better. We're not just doing the sewer, we're also doing storm drain. There's a project coming through City of Menifee, which I did most of the storm drain, and we came in second on that job. They're doing the line that goes north on Menifee Road. We're gonna end up tying to it. So we're gonna clean up a lot of that, the drainage issues too that's happening there. So our improvements that we agreed to do, which is unfortunate, Caltrans just moved that signal pole 3 feet. We're gonna come and move it 3 more feet and spend another $250,000. But that's the way a lot of public work projects end up going. So I'm okay improving it to the latest and greatest. You saw the site plan, the landscape. I'm good developing all that, but I just got handed a document, which, as Mike said, Yolanda or Cheryl will read the condition. I think there's a bit of maybe confusion on it, is that I'm in agreement to do the condition as it is now, but I think they are adding another term that there's no time frame, but let's say in 20 years or 25 years, the sidewalk is going to move 5 feet, 10 feet. They want me to go back and redo it. And I don't think that's fair, or that's how it should work. Right now, there should be never any improvement unless this express highway ever happens, which is a flyover, which I'm sure you all know about. If that does become reality and Caltrans is going to take over and do an 8, which everybody tells me not in our lifetime, they're gonna then do a condemnation for the entire, probably a lot of parcels next to the highway. If that happens, they probably will demolish the station and the mod center. So I don't know if we want to really predict that far and say we're going to do the improvements then. Like I said, I'm good doing the interim improvements that we agreed on. So that modifying the condition, which is 2B, I believe, condition 2B, which is kind of excluding the mods from doing any improvements and requiring me to do improvements, which I'm good, the latest and the greatest, but not to do another unknown improvement at unknown time. Again, I'm dedicating fully. I'm buying the property from the mods. I'm doing the ultimate dedication. So the dedication will be there. It's just I don't want to have to do unknown improvement where they tell me, why don't you do a piece of the railroad we're going to do if they're going to do rail in there again.
So can I ask you a quick question? So you're stating that you do not agree with the revised requirement number 2, saying that you will deferred construction of the ultimate road improvements on parcels 2, and that you will post a bond. So you're saying you don't agree with that, or the verbiage here?
I want clarification. If I leave it as is now, I will give you a bond and I will agree to deferred improvement. But if I'm gonna go spend $1 million now to move the signal pole, move the curb and gutter, sidewalk, I shouldn't be asked to do another security deposit and bond.
I'm not implying that you should. I just want to make sure that we're on the same page. So you're disagreeing with this
I would like it to be clarified, please, yes.
Okay. So before we go on with that, can we pull up the schematic of the right-of-way the
Section.
specifically, my original question was, you're doing the improvements on parcel 2, great, but you're not doing the improvements to sidewalk, setback, all that on on parcel number 1. So is the new improvements you're putting in, are they gonna line up with the current sidewalk and setback that's on parcel 1? Is it all gonna line up, or when you're said and done, are we gonna have an L there?
No, I'm sure it's gonna all line up. Like I said, I'm an engineer, but it's gonna come to your team, to the city, for construction documents. It will line up. It'll all be handicap accessible. That's not a debate or issue.
Okay.
Whatever we improve, there'll be transition from the existing sidewalk into the sidewalk we're gonna build, which is, the latest and the greatest.
So is the current, I haven't driven out there lately, is the current parcel 2 setback currently in line with the parcel 1, or is it not improved? I think it's improved right now, isn't it?
It is improved. I think part of the improvement, and again, if Yolanda could correct me, part of the improvement we've been asked to do is widen Highway 74 on the north side between the intersection and the first driveway, and widen the driveway to make it accessible for a tanker to go in and out, and because they wanted to add a deceleration lane, of which Caltrans recently, their current project they're doing, beside adding a median, they already widened the road both sides, and the north side, I know for sure, and they already moved the signal pole to allow for deceleration. But I think a lot of what we were going through is before Caltrans project. But we're gonna submit construction documents to the satisfaction of the city. There's no doubt on that.
So where the current curb is that already allow for that deceleration lane?
So if
No.
I could add some clarification
Yeah.
to what Marwan is saying. So
Yeah.
the way the project is being proposed right now, once the interim improvements is done in front of parcel 2, it would line up with what is existing in front of
Okay.
parcel 1.
Including the deceleration lane?
Yes.
Proposed? Okay,
So what
that's what I'm
he
trying to
is,
get at.
yeah, what he is arguing, or I should say mentioning, is that because the parcel we're conditioning the parcel to enter into, there's an option for them to enter into a deferred improvement agreement, meaning if in the event that the Highway 74 fronting them needs to be improved to the ultimate condition, it could be due to possibly a parcel on the west of them or a parcel on the east of them coming in to do the full improvement, then the project is being conditioned to also do the ultimate improvement fronting their parcel. And that's what he is disagreeing with.
And what is the ballpark figure on doing that? Changing from the intermediary to the ultimate improvements?
Meaning,
Moving sidewalk,
the
gutter,
curb face will move to the ultimate right of way.
which would include actually reducing the parcel size because
Yes,
you're
so
taking,
which
yeah.
would actually, they would have to give up the parking spaces that you see right now on the project. But they are in agreement with that because they will have to enter into another agreement wherein the city would be allowing them to use those parking spaces now until a certain point in time in the future when the city would need that right of way.
So I understand his concern. I kind of feel for it because there is ambiguity as far as in the future on other projects similar to this. Have we had this deferred agreement, and is there ever been a time limit put on it?
On some projects, the projects are actually paying in lieu of construction money instead of doing the improvement.
Instead of doing the improvements.
Right, but in this case, because it is Highway 74 that is involved, what Marwan is arguing is that we don't know when that ultimate improvement on Highway 74 could come in.
So basically, we're asking him to pay twice. Because we're asking him to build the improvements and then say, okay, Caltrans has made up their mind and now we want the ultimate improvement, say 10 years, and we're
No.
telling him he has to build it again.
We're not making them pay twice because what they're doing right now is just an interim improvement.
but there's a cost to that. There's a cost to concrete and,
Right, yeah, but, you know, it's still, when you have a development coming in wherein you're applying for a parcel map or a tentative track map, you're really supposed to provide improvements to the ultimate condition as dictated by our general plan. And our general plan says that this is where the ultimate right-of-way should be. And because of the situation that cannot happen at this point, because a lot of the other parcels along Highway 74 are not coming in all at the same time. So we work with the developer to enter into some kind of agreement wherein, okay, we will allow you to just improve to what is acceptable at this point and also acceptable to Caltrans, but you have to give us the needed right-of-way so that in the event that we do come in or Caltrans come in later on, we already have the right-of-way.
so.
And in addition to
yeah.
that, of course, the associated improvement for the ultimate right-of-way.
So I would,
May I
obviously, yeah, one sec. I have no problem with them dedicating the ultimate right-of-way, obviously. I just question, in the end, they're when they do the ultimate right-of-way, we're asking them to pay for those, that curb gutter and that setback. Okay, that's what I'm getting at. Go ahead, Chris, Cheryl.
I just wanted to add, for clarification purposes, the structure that was set up, it can be viewed as a tool for flexibility, right? So it doesn't make sense to do those ultimate now just on this small portion. But that ultimate would be required with new development. And so the agreement and the irrevocable offer of dedication and the bonds for the future ultimate, when that happens, was a tool we came up with working with the applicant to get us where we need to be at some time in the future, but also to allow the project to move forward now in a configuration that makes the most sense with what's built.
And last question, if Caltrans came in and said, okay, we got our plan, and we're gonna do it from 74 all the way, from the freeway all the way into Hemet, whatever it's gonna be, do they typically, and they say they take another 50 feet on each side of the road, whatever it is, do they typically pay for those improvements, or do they hit each property owner for
You
them?
mean Caltrans?
Yes.
No, Caltrans will pay for those. So if you came into a scenario like that, then I don't see Caltrans requiring this developer to pay for that frontage improvement. It will be part of the Caltrans big project.
Okay.
So when would this developer be responsible for it? If the
Well,
ultimate improvement would ultimately be done by Caltrans?
Yeah,
correct?
so say it's for the city's protection too. Say for example, I don't know, the parcel just east of Palomar came in, and there's an opportunity for that segment of Highway 74 to be improved to the ultimate. It could be some reasons, you know. If you don't have that condition, you may end up with having that parcel not to improve to the ultimate, even though there's an opportunity to do that. So if you have this condition, you can have that parcel as well as this parcel to bring in that curb line to the ultimate. And in that case, you don't want the city to come in and pay for the frontage of Mr. Marwan so that you get that ultimate improvement that includes possibly one or two parcels to the east or another few parcels to the west.
If I could add a couple things. I mean, this is a great hypothetical. First of all, my son just reminded me, because we deal with bonding, you can't have an open-ended bond. I mean, this is great unknown. It could be 10, it could be 50 years. And the city's been overcautious. I worked for Caltrans since the early 80s. Caltrans owns that right away, and that was the debate we do in the interim. If they ever come in, we never went to a property owner say, pay for your driveway. If Mike Nagar comes in with a big warehouse to the east, which I think there was some discussion, and you want to make him widen a mile of Highway 74, you make him widen. You don't go to property owners one by one saying, because we had you sign blank check. I mean, this is unfair and unwarranted. There is no reason to over-speculate. We're doing a beautiful improvements, adding sewers, storm drain. There's another debate, there's another point I want to bring in also for this overly cautious, the city trying to overprotect. I don't think it's warranted. I think if the city wants to take cash in lieu for my interim improvement, I'll be happy to do that. But I think the improvement is nice, what we're doing, adding the landscape and the sidewalk and So I hope you can accept that. Mike wants to add something.
If, before, I'm sorry, Mike, can I add a little bit to what Marwan just said? So the condition, the deferral agreement is not requiring them to post security today. The deferral agreement is going to require the security when we get to that point that the ultimate improvement is needed. I understand we don't require, you cannot require the developer to post a security today and have them pay for premiums for like 20 years. So that deferral agreement is not requiring them to post that. It will be posted only at the time when the improvement, say 20 years from now, is going to happen, or whatever period in time in the future.
So you're putting the agreement in place to make sure that happens?
Yes, so the
That's what the
agreement
agreement
is
is.
just required to be in place prior to or concurrent with
That's-
the final map
That's how I
recordation.
understood it. Okay.
I wish I could see a scenario where that ever would happen. When you do interim that satisfies Caltrans, we got a letter from them, the county, the city, that is gonna last for as long as everyone in this room is alive. If a scenario happened where there's a major development that will require adding more lanes, it's gonna be a regional improvement. It's gonna, and already dedicated the land, so you have it. Just a matter of paying for the curb and gutter, 200 feet in front of my parcel. It doesn't make sense to go ask the property owner to speculate and give that many securities.
And maybe what I'm about to say will actually give you more of a big picture, and it might make a little bit more sense. In 2003, the county approved its general plan, the RCIP. And when they did that, they did the circulation element. And at the time, it was like throwing darts at a map. So let me tell you what they did, and it will bring this into perspective. I want you to imagine the 215 freeway in Ethonac. And if you got off at the 215 in Ethonac and you headed east, by the time you got to Antelope Road, a flyover of the railroad tracks is planned on the county's general plan, which the city adopted. That flyover is to take the Ethonac Road, which on the general plan of the county and yours, from the freeway to the flyover, is designated as 6 lanes, 186-foot right-of-way. The flyover itself, by the time it's ever contemplated, is then going to fly over the railroad tracks and open up into 8 lanes as it comes down and enters and descends probably about, I'd say, 200 yards to the west of this project. Now, the flyover alone at the time is probably, right now today, is probably a $60, $70 million project. At the time the RCIP was adopted, and even today, no CEQA work as to the need for the number of lanes, how wide the right-of-way should be, whether or not the traffic demand would require it. It was, let's just make it 6 lanes, let's just make it 8 lanes after it flies over. Let's just put a flyover, okay? There's no rhyme or reason to it, no cost associated with it, no CEQA work done to it, no analysis of how much right-of-way would need to be taken, none of that. So when you show the ultimate right-of-way that's being dedicated, it's just a shot in the dark, whether or not it'll ever happen or whether or not it'll ever be needed. And so, kind of circling around to what Marwan is saying, the concept or the thought that 20 years from now, and trust me, the demand won't be there for that long, but even if somebody cobbled enough money at the time together, which would have to be well over $100 million to do the flyover, at that time, whoever was going to spend that amount of money is doing the whole project. To have Marwan come back and they point him out and say, we're doing the whole project, we're gonna spend $120, $130 million, but in front of your frontage, we expect you to pay. It's just, it doesn't compute.
Can I get clarification on that? So if Caltrans were doing the entire project, would this agreement still be requiring the applicant to pay? Or would Caltrans just foot the bill in that case?
So the agreement hasn't been written yet, and I see it as to include some provision that it becomes satisfied or void if that happens. And I also I would like to add a trigger also that could happen wherein we may require them to provide the ultimate improvement. So for example, if parcel 1 to the west comes in and apply for a development, that is of a different use, right? They may be required to improve the frontage to the ultimate, and if that happens and we don't have this deferred agreement in place, the city may end up having to improve their frontage because they share a driveway. So that's another trigger.
That's so hypothetical. Parcel 2 is 2.5 acres and so wide. If you do ultimate, you're only leaving them about 120 feet wide. You can't even build a building that would require ultimate. Ultimate means you have to have major development on both sides.
Right.
And again, if that happens, the whole
And it's
shopping
possible to
center-
happen.
Well, and forgive me again.
Sorry.
Because when I first started speaking, I said that if we had this to do over again, we probably would not do it. Because if we knew that this type of right-of-way would be required, literally dedicated and given by the Mott family to do, at this point, in a lot of ways, it doesn't make any sense, but we're kind of, as you put it, Marwan, we're up to our chest here in the mud. We need to finish and we need to get this done. But you have to imagine, or I'm going to ask you to imagine, I'm speaking of myself, 8 lanes as it's designated there. I can't imagine it ever being 8 lanes. It would wipe out his gas station. It would wipe out the Mott Country Plaza. And as you continued west, it would take out just about everything as you went west, and the same thing as you went east. It's the reason why we're continuing with this, because the bet is it will never happen. I guess that's the point. Not for 20 or 30 years, and at that point, I don't think you and I, it doesn't matter anymore, that 30 years in advance.
So let me ask a question. He's saying the ultimate's gonna be these 8 lanes. And there is where it is right now. Is there any possibility that there will be an interim additional setback required? Is there anything that could happen in between, is what I'm saying, from the building of this right-of-way versus there's not the Caltrans, but something in between? Would there any possibility of that?
I just actually stated a possibility. Like I said, if parcel 1 to the west comes in, say it's sold, it comes in and it applies for a different use, a different development, and because parcel 1 and parcel 2 are sharing a driveway, parcel 1 could end up having to build their frontage to the ultimate.
No, but the ultimate being the Caltrans ultimate, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let's
And
take.
that is already on the map too. The ultimate is already identified as to where it would be on the map. It's not like a speculation that it may wipe out the entire parcels 1 and 2. No, it's already identified on the final map, on the tentative map, I should say,
Yeah.
which is, I don't know if we can say it.
Again, a small 1 acre, 10 acre, 100 acres will not trigger the 8 lanes. Being an engineer working for Caltrans, that will be a massive project, like Mike said, and he is underestimating 120 million. In today's dollars, you're probably looking at over $500 million. I looked at some studies for the flyover with the widening toward Hemet. So it's really a massive project that doesn't seem it's gonna happen, but if it did, I will not even exist there, and my little 200 feet is nothing, so why? I don't think it's gonna be a problem, but I just think it's being too much nitpicking, and Mike said it, I hate to say it that way. I won't say I will not do it again. I will do it because I'm really looking forward to do a project in your city. But if I told you I bought the property for about $750,000, I'm already about $500,000 in studies. If I had known that, I wouldn't do that. But I'm about $500,000. I haven't even started construction documents. I haven't even started Caltrans miserable permits yet. So I hope you could work with us. I hope this is enough information. I'll leave it up to your discretion. But I really would like to see this condition modified to either take my cash in lieu now, or let me do the interim till the ultimate happen. If Mike Nagar and the Motts decide to do one, and you're gonna condition him to go to ultimate, which is almost impossible, let him pay. Let the new developer pay, and don't make me pay now. Let the guy then pay, because that's the way it goes. The guy who comes later, if there's a need, let them do it.
I'm gonna maybe say one more thing. I probably didn't really elaborate. the right-of-way we're giving could be construed as an overreach. It's an overreach because it just happened to appear on the general plan map. The city, and I presume rightfully so, is saying, well, since the county put it there and we adopted the county's general plan and they said it's going to be 8 lanes, you have to make sure we'll get 8 lanes in the future, but nobody has studied this at all. We don't impact, this project comes nowhere near to impacting that. In fact, as this whole corridor builds out, nobody's going to come in and need 8 lanes. The point is, none of that's been studied. It's just a mark on a map. And the city is saying, well, it's on the map, therefore, Mach, you have to give it to the city by virtue of, because we're splitting the parcel. And we're only splitting the parcel so we can convey one parcel to Mr. Alabasi, sell it to him, so he can build this. It's gotten way too complicated on something very, very easy to move. The Mach just wanted to move the train and build a gas station so the tide lift all boats, so that there'd be more residential coming in the back. The Mott's own the parcel in the back. It's trying to spur economic development. Anyway, I've said way too much, and you've been very gracious in listening to both of us play ping pong.
I know with all the items, so I don't want to take all night, so just a couple addition. I mean, we talked about the 4 years. Being in this business, we generate quite a bit of sales tax, and I know cities, get some of the revenues, and we would have gotten some. So really delaying the project or killing it doesn't benefit anybody, because if that happens and the Mott's promised, they will never do anything. So that property staying there, you're not gonna get the deceleration, you're not gonna get the enhancement, you're not gonna get the convenience for your residents, that they could stop by the soda, buy the drink, wash their car, because that's what we are. We're convenient for the residents. So killing the project is not beneficial, and we are really hanging by a thread. Adding more cost to it and burdening us is really not benefiting nobody. So we hope you could help us with this condition, modifying it. And I had another issue. I don't want to open a can of worms, but we've been debating in the last couple of days, and we just had a discussion, and maybe we will leave it alone. But there's the TUMP fee issue. I don't know if you folks familiar with TUMP fee, but we used to pay close to $500,000. Now they reduced it, and I got involved in it to get it reduced. We pay close to $300,000. And this is typically, and I think we included a slide, that what TUMP definition is. It's really to include the building of the improvements on the local highways. We did a traffic study, and God knows it took us about 2 years back and forth, and they finally determined that we have to pay additional fees of about a couple $100,000, $150,000, and it's unknown. And the city is asking us to commit to improve in McCall and Menifee, for example, paying fair share, which is a small percentage, because the traffic studies were kind of pushed to include that intersection, which in no way in the world, a gas station that I know very well, the business, that we impact that intersection, or Matthew and Case, and just some of these roads. So they added 10% here, 3% here, and you could end up with a couple $100,000, but I'm saying I've developed in just about every city in Southern California. I never paid fair share for intersection. We pay TUMF in Riverside County, and San Bernardino has a different fee. And that goes to the roads. Now, how it's divided, it's none of my business. I've met with WRCOG, I've been very involved with them. So now we've been asked to do another one, which I don't know how much we want to get involved into this one, but I really want to try to revisit that with WRCOG and the city. So we're not double paying. We're going to pay our fair share. We're going to generate revenues to the city through sales tax. So these are my points. If anybody has any question for us, I'll be happy to answer. But we are looking for the Planning Commission to vote and hopefully vote for the project to move forward.
In order to do so, you're not yet fully agreeing to all of the conditions, correct?
I don't know if it
Based
really
as they-
matters agreeing to it. The main one that we have is because they just handed me this amendment now, which I think Yolanda called it clarifying it, but I would like you to interpret it and maybe speculate on it. The fees, I don't think we could resolve it now or in the future, so I'm gonna leave that alone for now. Because I don't have to agree to it. I mean, if that's what you impose it on the condition, we will move forward with them.
Well, they are a part of the conditions as they currently are stated, so we would need to hear whether you do agree to the current conditions or you don't,
Well, does it matter if I agree or not for the fee, for the TUMP fee issue?
because they're part of the conditions of approval. So in order for us to approve it, we would need to know whether you agree to that condition or
Even
not.
if I didn't agree to it, what would be the consequences?
I mean, it would potentially change the vote.
And if I agree to it, I mean, we still can debate it with WRCOG and the city through the process. So
Sure, it's whether you agree to the conditions with the city, correct? Right?
I think we could move forward with with those conditions, except for I'd like you to revisit the issue that we debated.
In this.
We like an approval tonight. We will accept the conditions this evening to get that approval. However, there are some things that we need to look into further. Certainly, asking Mr. Alabasi to pay some fee that no one knows maybe in 20 years in the future is going to have to take a little bit more study between after this meeting and whenever he comes to that conclusion. Same thing with whether, I'll say what he was talking about in another way. No, you nailed it, but he's being asked, again, him, not the Mott portion, to pay TUMF, but also contribute fair share to TUMF roads. In essence, paying twice. Almost, I hate, it's a pejorative term, I'm not gonna use it, double, everybody knows what that is, and I don't mean it pejoratively, but he needs to be assured he's not going to be paying TUMF and be paying a fair share to the city as the condition is written. So we're in a position today where we have to move forward. We're gonna build this station. Am I correct? So we need to exit planning commission, and then the only other issue pending would be taking our map to city council for final approval. Whether or not in the future, between now and then, you want to talk to city council members regarding anything you may do. But for tonight, we're going to accept the conditions unless in your wisdom, you see what we're talking about and we'll change them here.
Yeah, it really is a bigger issue, and we were handed the conditions of approvals, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago maybe. So we start going through them and analyzing them. We talked to WRCOG today, to our engineer, so I don't expect a solution to that one. I just wanted to kind of bring it up. And I don't want to hold up vote because of that. Again, I would hope to see the vote based on the merit of the project and how good is it for the city and what you think of it. The only other issue, which I saw some enough discussion, is on that dedication issue and the ultimate and the interim. I really don't think it's fair to have me do twice improvements. So I hope that's enough.
Thank you for that. Yes.
Thank you for your
Commissioner
time.
Ledoux, do you have a question?
Yeah, I wanted to contribute here. First of all, you'll have to excuse me. I'm the new guy here on the commission, and I don't have quite the experience of my esteemed colleagues here. So please forgive me if I'm asking questions that are simple, or if I'm being asked to vote on something, I want to understand it, right? I think that's fair. So to me, the way I understand the conversation so far, when you started, you said that you didn't particularly agree to 2B, correct, in these conditions?
I was just handed 2B 5 minutes before 10 minutes before the
And
meeting.
the part that you're questioning in that is that your requirement to post security, correct?
My requirements to do improvements now, which I'm in agreement
I
with,
understand that.
and to post security, which was explained, I don't have to post it now, or do improvement in unknown time.
Okay.
Which could be
So
a year or 10, 20.
My question, it may not be for you, it may be for staff, just to help me understand. And again, forgive me, I'm the new guy here. What does that mean to post security? What are we asking him to do?
So, our Title VII subdivisions actually require that if a development is coming in to provide or make some improvements, they're supposed to post security for those improvements to make sure that those improvements will be completed. However, in this particular project, the deferral agreement is just making it clarification that when we get to the point in the future wherein the developer will be coming in and do the improvements, part of that process would be for him to post security for those improvements.
Okay, so.
Not today.
Okay, so we're asking him to post security for the potential future ultimate,
Correct.
correct?
Uh-huh.
I see.
If I could explain it my way, the securities cities and agencies ask for, if somebody comes up with a housing tract and the city approved the map and the developer goes bellies up and you got all this dirt graded all the way, then the city could tap into that security and do the improvement themselves. It's not intended to do it in 20 years again and widen the roads.
Understood.
That's because we do this all the time. We do housing, we do, so I
Understood.
think that's the intent of it.
So,
Thank
so I just
Okay.
want to add, oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
Okay.
No, I just wanted to make some clarification also before, we get too far from that last statement that was mentioned about the double dipping on TAMF. So the project was actually conditioned, it has 5 conditions wherein it's being required to participate in paying fair shares to 5 different intersections. So for example, an intersection of Menifee with I can't remember, maybe Briggs, right? So it is not double dipping because the TAMF improvement or facilities, if a facility is TAMF qualified, TAMF doesn't look at the improvements at the intersections. Those are more localized impacts. So the project was conditioned to pay fair share in the improvements of those intersections which are brought by the development. So those are localized impacts on intersections.
And that was based on applicant's own traffic study, correct?
Chair, I'd just like to make a couple clarifications as we've had a lot of conversation about what happens if you approve and the conditions of approval.
I was
whether-
going to ask you that.
Yes.
That was my next question, was going to be pointing to you. So thank you for.
I'm a
bringing that
mind
up.
reader. So the first thing I'd like to clarify is that, the conditions of approval, the best way for staff to work with the applicant, right, because he has concerns about the deferred agreement and whatnot, is actually to continue the matter. If you approve the resolutions as defined and as described in the agenda with the conditions of approval, you're approving the conditions of approval under the belief that they agree with it. So there is no space afterwards to discuss or change unless you condition the resolutions on staff talking to them about it. However, from experience, that would create, basically open a can of worms because you never know if they will meet at an impasse again or if they will actually agree. So that actually creates more uncertainty than if you gave staff and the applicant time to work it out prior to approval. So that's the first thing. The second thing I wanted to clarify is Commissioner Ledoux, you had asked about securities. So there's a lot of conversation that this deferred agreement would cause them to put up security or cause them to build anything. Well, from what I recall, the applicant themselves said that the final conditions, the final road widening would never happen. So what the deferred agreement would do is just to say, in the possibility, in the eventuality that does happen, you will put up this bond, the security, and that protects the city and ensures that if that does happen, which as the applicant said is very unlikely, then we are protected. And Yolanda did mention that if there are developments that come in to the east and to the west, which again, the applicant mentioned that there may be residential that comes in, then that would result in some improvements to the area. And again, that deferred agreement would kick in, the bond would then kick in, and that would ensure that those are improved. So all of these agreements are really to make sure that the city is protected, but as the applicant said, it might never be used, and if Caltrans is the one that does it, then it's a win for everybody.
So, City Attorney, does that mean there's an open number on that bond, or would there be an engineer's estimate that would establish that without further future costs based on inflation or whatever?
So there would be no bond right now.
No. If you're gonna place a bond, though, there would be a number.
At that time,
Yes.
But see, that's the hard part. That's open-ended. What could it possibly be at that? I'm just saying, we're past that right now, but I'm just saying, that's what I don't.
Well, what he's saying, that was the concern I had was, you have an open-ended, okay, what you're saying is let's clarify, there's no cost to them now, they don't have to buy the bond, there's no cash outflow, none of that, right? Is that correct?
Right.
Okay, so that problem solved, there's no additional cash outflow. The concern is that you're saying you have to enter into this agreement that later you may have to buy this bond. That bond could be $100,000, it could be
Right.
$2 million.
Right.
That is the concern. So I understand, and I also understand the city's role in this.
Yes, so to clarify, this deferred improvement is a request from the applicant to make it easier for them today to move this project forward, because as staff mentioned, there are concerns about parking and that they can pay a fee that staff can use, and if developments come in the next 5 years, that would potentially be used. So the applicant has options. This is really, for some, money tomorrow is cheaper than money today. And so those are considerations on the table, and staff has been trying to work with them to get this project in and moving forward.
I do also want to clarify something else. The ultimate right-of-way is based on the cross-section in the city's general plan. It is an adopted requirement. When we talk about creating findings and making findings of project consistency with our general plan, the general plan identifies the roadway cross-section. And so this irrevocable offer of dedication to those ultimate improvements to be consistent with the general plan was the tool we thought was most appropriate.
So going back to what you said earlier, a yes vote, we approve you today, means that we're approving these revised conditions. And therefore, then your next step.
So it would depend on your motion, but yes, if you move to approve the resolutions as agendized, then that would be approving the conditions of approval, the resos, and the project would move forward as is.
And that leads back to my question to the applicant as to whether they agree to the conditions as currently agendized.
If the commissioners agree with our point, I would like to see approval with striking to be. If the commissioners doesn't agree with my point, then please approve it as presented, and I'm good with that. I'll leave it to your discretion, but I would like to get vote and approval either way. I'd like to see your approval with striking to be, because it really just doesn't seem fair. Like my son just came and asked me, he said, is it really fair for me to pay 10% of Briggs Road improvement? Where if somebody comes to approve Briggs Corner, they're gonna make them pay for the whole thing. Yet you're worried about somebody building next to the mots, and I go wide and I have to pay for it. It just doesn't make sense. But I'll leave it to your discretion. I like you to strike to be, but if you don't see it as suitable, again, thank you either way. But I like to see a vote, and I like to see a yes vote.
I think, it's up to the commission as a whole, but I don't think we can make those decisions on the dais tonight, right? So I think really what it comes down to personally is either we continue it for you to have more time to figure that out with staff, or we approve it or vote to approve it with the conditions of approval as they are
With
stated.
all respect to staff, after 4 years, I really don't want to go another 4 years.
Sure.
I don't see us resolving the issue. If you feel you don't have enough data or to your vote, I'll leave it to you. But I really like to see, continuous doesn't help us. And really, we had, and I hate to say it, but we had some legal issue with the MOTS. I mean, the deal almost died, and I think staff knows that. And we're getting to some deadlines. If this project doesn't go, we're gonna end up with some legal action that I hate to see happen. So it's either deal with it and move on, or plead our case to you and leave it to your discretion. If you feel you want to approve it as presented, please do, but please don't continue it, because it doesn't really serve any purpose. I don't see us coming and convincing the city. If I can't convince this body here, I don't see me convincing the city staff, because we debated this for 4 years. And 4 years again, another $500,000 isn't going to be good.
Can I ask a question of Yolanda or Cheryl? This red letters, the changes here just came to us now. So was this not discussed before? The deferral agreement?
No, the deferral agreement has been discussed with them before. It
Okay.
was just being clarified in this memo.
Okay.
So
And
if you
are
take-
these changes more difficult to the applicant, or more, do they cost them more? Do they cause them more issues, these changes that were presented
No.
to us just before the meeting started? No.
Because if you take a look at item 2, for example, the only revisions are in red. Everything else were in the original conditions. that were provided with them, and it has been discussed with them. So the last paragraph in red is just clarifying when the deferred agreement would need to be executed.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I am okay with 2B. I don't have a problem with it. I'm okay with the condition 2B in red that was handed to me 5 minutes before the meeting. So 2B is good, is okay, defer but it's just a clarification. But again, I don't think going back and continuing and debating it is gonna benefit anybody. I'll leave it up to the commissioners to discuss it, debate it. And again, I like to see a vote and hopefully positive vote.
So City Attorney, so 2B is going to be part of the agreement, correct?
Yeah, so a couple clarifications. I know we've been referring to it as 2B. However, it's item 2 in the memo, and the B is actually part of the city subdivision ordinance. So it's just item 2, which is revising engineering COA number 171, and it's a paragraph.
So my question is, can these be revised again before the agreement that is going to be signed between the city and the applicant?
They technically could,
Well, that's
however,
striking
we
it
would want
tonight.
to do it tonight or continue the item to better flesh it out. However, I wanted to point to Yolanda's comment earlier, which is this is actually just a clarification of what's already in item number 171 and what's required in our subdivision ordinance. It is not adding an additional requirement. What it is to just clarify that because they are asking for a deferred agreement, this is what it entails, as it's always entailed if they want that benefit.
And again, if it could happen now, my daughter's an attorney, but I can't debate with an attorney. She knows what she's talking about. But it could be amended, just approve the condition as presented with amending condition 2 to read, interim condition is all what's required of the applicant, period. I don't think it needs flushing because it does.
I think that's asking too much to do on the dais tonight.
Just leave it as is.
Thank you.
And I'm happy with it if you folks don't feel like it could be changed tonight.
And in your years of doing this, you said you've been doing this for Caltrans, I know you had to anticipate that the city was going to try to protect itself, and these revisions and provisions that we have are there to protect the city, knowing what's in the general plan and knowing what the possibilities are in the future of development in that area.
You could never protect yourself nowadays with legal actions. You could put a condition if there's an accident within 2 miles either way, it's my fault. I mean, you could put all kind of protection, but really, what's the limit of protecting yourself?
Just a point of clarity, there are some changes to the conditions that Yolanda needs to read into the record that have to do with improvements by the MOTS, and those are associated with the CUP and the temporary parcel map.
Where are they in this memo? Which
Well,
sections are you referring to?
They were sent to me yesterday, and so I have reference to them yesterday, but then I think Yolanda and staff changed them again today, so I'm not sure where they are right now.
Were they part of the posted staff report or no?
So that would be item 3 of the memo.
Can you, of the memo referring to the parcel map or to the CUP?
The plot one.
The plot plan.
So if you look at page 2 of the memo, item 3, that's an added new engineering condition as requested by the developer. It was revised to make some clarity, but the intent of the condition is the same. The requirement for street improvements on State Highway 74 is not required for parcel 1. And we just clarified that if parcel 1 brings forth a development application for the site in the future, it would be subject to city review approval and conditions in accordance with city ordinances and codes on development. And these statements were actually taken straight out of an email communication between Mr. Nagar and our project engineer who worked on this project.
Which I must compliment, by the way. Mr. Hiley is very efficient, and I appreciate it. We agree to this condition. It's in the plot plan. It also needs to
And
be
it's-
referenced in the temporary parcel map.
So in the tentative parcel map, if you look at page 4, that would be item 3.
So I have an additional question then, just for clarification. He is improving parcel 2. He's kind of improving parcel 1. He's moving the train over there. So how is it the city didn't require him to do frontage improvements on parcel 1?
If I could clarify.
Wait, Mike. I want to hear from the city.
Okay, so technically, the city could require improvements in front of parcel 1 because he's subdividing the parcel. Per our Title 7 subdivisions, that could be required. However, in the city's effort to work with the developer to make this project move forward, and we also look at the amount of improvements or changes that are happening in front of parcel 1, the city agreed to not require the same intense improvements that we're requiring on parcel 2 for parcel 1.
Okay. So I'll bring
But
this up
making
then.
sure that the curb line will align, because obviously we don't want to have an improvement in front of both that doesn't work.
Okay.
If I could add to that, there's a component that I'm the developer, I think they refer to. I am buying parcel 2 from the MOTS.
Okay.
The MOTS or the entire center. So through the negotiation discussion with the city and Mike Nagar, who represents the MOTS, it was like with me, I'm developing the half the lot or a third of it, go full blown, do everything. But them, they really are not doing nothing to their center, except they just used the lot that had the train now is being moved to empty piece. So that was part of the 4 years negotiation and back and forth.
Okay. Okay.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I hope we get a vote tonight again. We don't want to continue.
So at this point, I will close the public hearing at 7:22 p.m. Commissioners, I'm sure we have discussion on this issue. Who wants to go first?
I can vote yes, the way the conditions have been revised. But otherwise, I recommend a continuance.
So, just to speak to that, I believe we have from the applicant that they will agree to these conditions of approval if that means going forward with a vote tonight, so.
That's the way I understand it.
That's how I can go.
As designed.
Your mic's off, I think. Is your mic off?
Commissioner White is just very soft-spoken today.
So, I would vote to approve for these 4 reasons. Number 1, I'm not happy with the deferral agreement. I understand why the city's doing it.
Right.
I'm not comfortable with the open-endedness of it. Potentially, nothing's gonna happen, but I don't like contracts in perpetuity.
Right.
It makes me uncomfortable. However, they were not required to do any improvements on parcel 1, which normally when you subdivide, you have to do a full-length improvement. So the city was wise to allow this project to go through to help them not have to incur that cost. So they're getting that benefit. They do not have to put any cash out in a bond until this actually happens, so there's no cash cost to them. And I think the likelihood is that if this ever does go to ultimate, Caltrans is gonna take that property and pay for the improvement. I don't like the length of that deferred agreement, but there's other intervening benefits. And as far as the TUMP fee, those are for regional type of improvements. They have no control where they go. Like she said, it's for local improvements. So again, I understand the cost of development and I understand your concern, but I think the fair share is small enough and it's appropriate to their adding to the mitigating the effects in those intersections. So I would vote yes. The project, the owner wants this to go forward. He's agreed to it. I would vote yes.
I was just going to say that I feel the same way for the same reasons.
Any,
what, 4 years? It's been in negotiation? No, I said it's. No, I said it's been 4 years. And we're trying to get to a build point, I think, at this time. Right. Okay. Thank you.
I can appreciate your challenges that you've gone through here. This is usually we go ultimate right away, you dedicate that on your map, you transition to existing, you're done. You're not going through that at all, but we don't know where the buck's gonna stop. You know, we want it to stop with you, you want it to stop with us. Probably never gonna happen, but thank you for all you've gone through and your patience. Thank you, Mike.
Sounds like we need to vote.
with that, do I have a motion to adopt a resolution adopting a mitigated negative declaration? It looks like all votes are in, but it's not showing me. Oh, there we go. There it is. And that passes. Can I get a motion and a second to adopt a resolution approving plot plan number 2018-300?
Chair, if I can clarify, to incorporate the revisions in the memo.
Thank you. Thank you. Is that on this one? Yes. That was on the plot plan, correct? For the one that we just. And now we're doing the plot plan. Thank you. You're right. I have that on my notes here, and I didn't read that, but thank you. So this, I don't know if we need to do a revote, but it looks like it passed at this point, but that's incorporating the revisions in the memo that we were presented with tonight. Moving on, can I get a motion and a second to adopt a resolution approving conditional use permit number 2018-302? And that passes. Can I get a motion and a second to adopt a resolution approving conditional use permit number 2018-301? That also passes. Finally, can I get a motion and a second to adopt a resolution approving tentative parcel map number 2018-320?
With the revised.
Also with the revised
Thank you.
pursuant to the amendment in the memo presented tonight. That also passes. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just say thank you to the commission. The discussion was very conscientious, and thank you to staff. I feel really good we had the discussion, and that's just kind of really cool. The process really works, so thank you.
All right.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you. No discussion items tonight. Moving on to item number 11. In a minute. Community Development Director, do we have any comments or updates?
I have a list of things for you all tonight.
How exciting.
So a couple
pen.
new businesses coming to town that I just wanted to take an opportunity to mention. We have Share Tea going in the center right across the street next to Flame Broiler on Hahn Road. Crumble Cookie over by New York Pizza in the marketplace. And then we have our Menifee Plaza development, which is right on the corner of Town Center and Newport. That is coming along. That will have a Starbucks, a chiropractor, and a couple other businesses there. So that should be opening in the next couple of weeks. I also wanted to let the commission and the community know of a couple of upcoming meetings. On Tuesday night of next week, the 29th, we will be having a scoping meeting for the notice of preparation for an EIR on a project, an industrial warehouse project up in the north end of the city off of Trumbull Road. That will be here at 6 p.m. On Wednesday evening, we will be having a meeting at the Mott Country Museum at 6 p.m. to discuss environmental justice policies as part of our required updates to the general plan that go along with our housing element. Speaking of the housing element, the draft housing element, including the policies and the candidate sites that were discussed at our last joint workshop, that is out for public review. June 15th through July 15th. It's on the city's website. We also have a hard copy at the front counter if the public would like to come and look at that. And then the CEQA document that goes along with the housing element update, the land use element update, and the safety element update will be out for public review in the next couple of days. Let's see, there was one more thing I wanted to mention, and that is that the city is hosting our Independence Day celebration this Saturday evening. Couple ways to watch it. You can watch it from your home. You can go over to MSJC and drive into the parking lot. And there also will be activities at Wheatfield Park. So the activities start at 5 at Wheatfields. The fireworks go off at 9. And that is it, unless the
You weren't kidding.
commission has any questions for me.
For the parking at MSJC, is it sign up required in advance?
I am not sure.
I thought I had
believe
seen
that
something
information
about
is
that.
on our website.
Okay.
No other questions?
Thank you for that. Lots of activity. Fellow commissioners, anything to report on with your activities?
I have a quick question. That scoping meeting, is that intent to take public comment about whether we want a warehouse or not? What is it?
It is to identify issues that we should analyze in the CEQA document.
Okay.
No updates? All right. Any future agenda requests? And I believe on our next meeting, right, we will be having one of the previous requests being discussed at the next meeting.
That is correct. There was a request to discuss development of gas stations and fast food restaurants. That was a future agenda item requested by Commissioner Thomas, and the commission voted to put that on the agenda. We have a target date for discussing that item of July 14th, so our next meeting.
Great, thank you for that. If there are no further comments, then I will adjourn the meeting at 7:33 p.m.